Hi guys, welcome to Caking It Special with me, Lauren. Today I'm going back to the beginning and I'm going to show you how I neatly cover a cake board in fondant. So here we go. So I've got here a 12-inch cake drum, my green fondant. I've already kneaded it, but I'll give it another knead. It is very important to knead your fondant. If you can stretch it like this and it stays together, then it's ready, you're good to go. Whereas if you was to pull it apart and it just snapped in two, it's not ready, keep kneading. Now, what I like to do before I roll out fondant is make sure that all the creases are at the bottom. That way you have a smooth surface on top. I use corn flour. It's got my little pouch. You can use icing sugar if you prefer. I just find it too sticky, so I stick with corn flour. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rolling it and I'm going to keep turning it. That way you're getting an even layer of fondant and also you know it's not sticking anywhere. So I'm just going to keep going with it. Okay, and here, look, I don't know if you can see, I have got a bit of an air bubble forming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tool. This tool is actually used for royal icing, but I'm going to use it for this. And I'm just going to gently poke a hole in it to let all that air out. And then carry on. If you need to add more corn flour underneath your fondant, go ahead. I try not to as much as I can because it does dry out the fondant. So if I feel like I can get away with it, I will. Just keep checking as you go that there's no air bubbles forming underneath the surface of your fondant. It's very important because if you leave it there, then when the fondant dries on top, where that air is trapped underneath, it will just start to crack. You don't want that. What I'm going to do now is bring back my board. And I've got a little bit of water and a paintbrush, and I'm just gonna put a really thin layer on my cake board. I don't want to go crazy with it because it's just going to make everything sticky and slippy and slidey. So just the tiniest little bit that covers the whole surface will work. Some people don't like to use water, they just like to put the fondant straight on the board, but I guess I think it's just a bit safer. Okay, then what I'm going to do is just pick my fondant up and lay it directly on top. Now, as you can see, I've got edges here where the fondant doesn't quite meet. That's fine, can fix that. What I'm going to do is just take my rolling pin and gently roll it over the edge. Like so. As long as you're rolling it all the way across and not just that little bit that you needed to go extra, it'll be fine. So you still want that even finish. Like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a cake smoother and just smooth it out. Smooth out any creases, any lines that you may have gotten from your rolling pin, anything like that. You want it all gone. You want it to be smooth. Sometimes I do find that the icing smoother gets a bit stuck to the fondant. That could be because you're pushing too hard, or you just need to add a tiny little, like that amount to your smoother. just helps out. Okay, so now we've reached this point, we're going to take a knife. It needs to be very sharp. If it's not sharp, you're just going to drag your fondant and you're just going to stretch it and it's going to tear and it's going to be awful. So sharp knife. And what I'm going to do is just slide this along the side of the board. Make sure that you're not getting any fondant on your knife as you go. And if you do, just wipe it off. Just keep doing this all the way around. Make sure that your knife's clean as you go. If your knife's not clean, again, it's just going to dull your blade and it's just going to end up tearing your fondant. And you're not going to get that nice, clean finish that we're after. People think that covering a cake board in fondant is a 2-second job, but if you want a neat job, it's not always the case. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is finish this off with some ribbon around the edge. So I've got some double-sided tape. And I'm just going to add a layer all the way around. You need to make sure you're pulling really tight, because you don't want any air trapped under here either. So keep pushing it. Make sure there's no air stuck under there. All the way around till you're back to where you started. Okay, let's just pull all that off. And then I've got some pink ribbon here. Okay, and we're just gonna place that, make sure it's along the bottom, like so. And we're, again, same thing, I'm gonna make sure there's no air stuck under there. And we're just gonna pull it tight, make sure it's even all the way around. You don't want it raised in some areas and dipping in others. You don't want it stuck under the board. Like that. I'm going to use the end of this ribbon. There we go. And again. And there it is. Nice and neat. Make sure you come back next week, guys, because I've actually made Hey Hey from Moana into a cake topper, and that's going to be what I'm showing you next week. So make sure you come back and, of course, subscribe to this channel. Thanks, guys. Bye.